Good evening. I'm your host, Modesty, and welcome to the Celebrity Spotlight Live Talk Show, where we take you beyond the lights, the cameras, and the action of celebs, authors, actors, radio hosts, performing artists, businessmen and businesswomen, and other noteworthy professionals. Our guest for tonight, and we're excited about her, is from H-Town, Houston, Texas. Her name is Tyrolyn Redmond, and she's a counselor, a wellness coach, a life coach, and a Beachbody coach. How are you, Tyrolyn, this evening?
I am doing absolutely fabulous. So excited about this opportunity to share my journey. Yes. I live in H-Town, but I'm from Louisiana, so I got to make a shout out to all my Louisiana folks.
Well, all right, Nola. That's wonderful. Well, dear, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being our guest tonight. We're going to discuss your journey, as you know, as a counselor first, and then we're going to talk about the three facets of coaching that you're undertaking. That is the wellness, life, and especially the Beachbody coach. I'm really interested in that. So we're going to get started right here. Let me start by saying, in 2016, with so much going on in the world, counseling and individuals' wellness and fitness are very significant things, and they're very much needed in our society, especially, mental counseling, because there are so many people who, are lacking mental stability, can't think rationally, et cetera, and their behavior is all over the place. So we definitely know that your counseling services and you as a counselor is so much needed in this society. So, Tyrolyn, when did your journey as a counselor commence? Tell us about that.
It's funny because I would say that my journey as a counselor began long before I became certified as a counselor, long before I made the decision.
Okay.
Because I've been working with youth almost my entire life, and it came about as a youth minister in the church, even prior to me having my own children. I did Bible classes. I was a youth minister. I had the youth group. We designed the youth programs for the church, the educational programs. And actually, I started all that in New Orleans because that's where I was at the time at Louisa Street, Church of Christ, which is where I was going. And what we found was that a lot of our youth were dealing with issues at home that were not children issues. They were adult issues.
Wow.
Which is really, really sad. And so much of that was taking children under my wing and speaking with them and talking to them and using church and the scripture and the Bible to kind of lead them down the path, help them define who they were, remember who they were as, God created individuals, and if you can just stay grounded in your faith, if we can pray on it a little bit, then, we can move forward and we can overcome. And when I'm talking about issues, I'm talking about having to take care of younger siblings.
Okay, right.
Trying to help parents figure out how they were going to get that next meal in.
Wow, right. Serious issues.
Serious issues.
Yeah.
Parents working long hours, overnight hours, so you have a child, maybe in high school, sometimes in middle school, that were getting the younger siblings up in the morning for breakfast and getting them ready for school and getting them on the bus, then getting themselves together. so that they can go to school, and then coming home in the evenings and getting them off the bus, and then preparing dinner for everybody, trying to get the younger siblings' homework done, and still trying to find time to get their own done. And that's a lot. And that's a lot. And unfortunately, what was going on is that we had a lot of single-parent households. And this was some 25 years ago. So, and I was working in corporate at the time. So this, I started out right out of college. I was working for Procter & Gamble. I was in, sales and marketing. And I thought, this is my calling. Then I had a family of my own, and I realized that I needed to raise my children, not a nanny. So I resigned. I moved back home to Louisiana because it had taken me out of state. I was actually up in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
For about 3 years. Still doing youth work, still got involved with the church. And guess what? Whether I was in New Orleans or I was in Richmond, Virginia, I was still seeing the same issues.
Isn't that something? Everywhere you go, it's everywhere you go. And, as quiet as it's kept, it's not just the problems that you're mentioning. It's not just in African-American communities. It's in a lot of Caucasian communities as well. But our situations are always accentuated, underscored, put in caps and bold letters. But people have problems all over the United States, all over the world. And I'm,
absolutely.
Go right ahead, dear. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. So it was after that, when I moved back to Louisiana, then I was still, again, working in the youth ministry. I had begun tutoring on the outside because I took some time to just stay at home with my younger girls, my 2 girls. And then everybody kept saying, you really need to be teaching. You really need to be in education. More than the students that are tutoring you need to be able to benefit from what you're doing. So I got certified. I started teaching in Louisiana, and then started teaching, moved to Houston and obtained my teacher certification here in special education.
Excellent. So this is like your steps were ordered.
Yes, I'm telling you. So I started in, I didn't start in special education because I was doing GT and algebra in Louisiana. But when I came here, that was where the need was. And so I said, okay, if that's where the need is, then that's where I'm going to become certified.
Exactly.
Well, let me tell you, even the issues that I saw in New Orleans and in Richmond, once I became a special education teacher, they were the same, and they were amplified because now I'm dealing with children that are being labeled, some of them not because they really had an educational deficit, but because they had a behavioral deficit, and some of the people that were working with them, not all of them, could not get them to work for them. And the reason why they could not get them to work for them was because they were not willing to meet them where they were.
Oh, my God. Go ahead, Tyrolyn. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
It's interesting what you're saying because my mind goes back to Dr. Umar Johnson. Don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is a 3-degreed doctor. He's a clinical psychologist.
He was on the Breakfast Club.
Yes. And everything that you're saying right now, he said that. He said so many children are labeled special ed, and they're labeled because the schools that are taking care of them get money for them. But many of these kids just need love, and they need patience. And you just said that those who were teaching these kids were not meeting them where the kids were at. So there was a major gap. There was a disconnect. And when there's a disconnect, no one is going to benefit from it. The children are not going to benefit from it. That teacher is still going to get paid, though.
Yes, absolutely.
But the children are not going to benefit from it. So that's a blessing that God was able to take you from one state to another. And the fact that you came out of corporate America, you stepped out in faith because, I don't know when exactly what year you did it, but the last several years, the United States has been trying to make their way back financially since the 2008 mortgage mess took place.
That's right.
And finding a job and getting work, for the last, it's gotten better, I would say, in the last 3 or 4 years, but it was really hard and difficult for some people, and people were holding on to whatever they had. But the fact that you said, your children come first, and you proved it. You proved it by withdrawing from corporate America and by taking care of your children and having to move back to New Orleans and see. You took a risk, but it was important and it was essential, and your children, they're very important. They're number one, and your love for them is definitely shown. That's a blessing.
And I will say it, people look at my relationship with my girls and then other children that I've acquired along the way. And I've acquired children in every state that I've lived in.
Okay, you're like the mother in the shoe.
I am like that old woman in the shoe.
Right.
This weekend, we actually did a photo shoot with some of them. And it was just, it was absolutely beautiful. And what I say to people on a daily basis is when I come here, I got into education, and, they laugh at me. But I said my number one reason for getting into education is because I like to entertain, and children entertain me. I absolutely love being with children. And when you meet them where they are, they will reciprocate the love you show for them.
That's right.
And it will be immeasurable. And they will give so much back. And when you invest in them, and the benefit for me and what I've been able to see is when you invest in those children and then their families see how much you invest in those children, then the families now want to invest in the children. Because let me tell you, Modesty, I do home visits, home calls. I will take kids home. Parents will call me on my off hours. I keep my telephone number. I keep a landline, and that number is published. Because if a parent needs to get me, then they can just look it up. And I even give on my business cards, I don't have my cell phone number, but when a child or a parent asks me for a card, I immediately write my cell phone number on the back, depending on how great the need is.
So, exactly.
As, being in special education and dealing with these children and dealing with the parents, and I'm going to tell you, sometimes counseling the parents and providing the services and the resources and being able to point them in the right direction depending on what their familial needs were, I just, a light bulb went off because I felt like there was so much out there that I could be doing that I wasn't able to do because I didn't have the counseling certification. And so I went back to school. I got my master's in counseling.
Wonderful.
And I've been counseling since 2008. And
that is phenomenal.
Yeah, and I still have some of those children, like I said, that come back. As they graduate, I'm going to graduations. Their parents are still calling me. They're finding me on Facebook.
That is wonderful.
Because I believe in our children.
Yes.
And, my sister, she's so funny because people keep asking her, why doesn't your sister just go back to corporate? She has all these experiences. She's worked with businesses. She can do PR. She can do promotions. Why doesn't she just go back to corporate? And she laughs and she says, I've been trying to get her back in corporate for 15 years.
Wow, and it still hasn't worked.
Right. She said, and she will not go because the one thing you cannot do is pull her away from her students.
Right. That's a wonderful thing. That is your calling. That is your passion. And once a person finds out what their niche or forte is, there is nothing that can stop them or detour them. And it's a blessing just to hear how much you are invested in not only your children, which are number one, but you've invested in others. So you are definitely a part of that village that the African proverb talks about when it says it takes a village to raise a child. So that's wonderful, your journey as far as a counselor is sharing with us. We thank you for that, my dear. Now, segueing on to, we have a few more minutes left. Actually, you see how easy it was, Tyrolyn? You was nervous. Yeah, I told you. It's like talking to a friend. So tell us now. Okay, want to make it as comfortable as possible for you. Tell us now, we're going to segue from counselor into wellness, life coaching, and that Beachbody coaching. Tell me now, how did you get into those? You can start at either one of them. How did you get into those?
Okay,
want to coach. Mm-hmm.
No, finish your question.
Yeah, no. I did finish. How did you get into life coaching, wellness coaching, and Beachbody coaching?
Okay, so what happened in working with my children? It really first started at home. Both of my children were asthmatic. And one of them, my oldest daughter, they were both playing softball, and one year, the year she was 9, she turned 9, her first game of the season, opening day, she walks onto the field, and she hits a home run, and she's trying to make it, around the, to the place, and she gets the first, and then she gets the second, and then as she's rounding second on the third, we notice that she's getting slower and slower, but, everybody's okay because it's a home run. It doesn't matter. She got it. And then she rounds third, and then she starts walking to home plate. Well, for the first time, she openly got an asthma attack right there on the field. I mean, just openly. So we leave from the game, get her to the hospital. She has multifocal pneumonia, which if you don't understand what that is, and I didn't until that day, she had spots of fluid all over both lungs. And what they told us was that she must have had walking pneumonia for at least 2 weeks for it to get to that point.
And didn't even realize it.
And didn't even realize that. So parents that are out there listening, pay attention to your children. If they start sneezing irregularly, if they start having minor coughs here and there where they would not, and it seems like it's a consistent, if it's happening consistently, check that out. Because, it was just a little here or there.
Right, a little cough.
Yeah, it wasn't anything serious. Well, apparently it was. So as a result of that, she had to be on steroids for a good month and a half. And what did the steroids do? They blew her up. And it was such a struggle trying to get her weight back down after that. And then, we would go to the doctor, and, they always, and I really hate, because I feel like these words are harsh, but I understand what they're trying to say. First she was overweight, and she needed to do some things differently. This was coming from her doctor. Then, she was obese, and she needed to do something differently. Forget her body structure or the way that she carried her weight. Forget the fact that she was really eating healthy about 85% of the time.
All the time, right.
She was overweight and obese. And, and we just kept getting that. We kept getting that. And every time somebody told her that, she would just get more and more disheartened, more and more heartbroken. And me as a mother, I couldn't stand to see that look on her face.
Right.
So I started doing research, and I started looking into things. And then, as a counselor, I was also placed in charge of wellness on my campus for our students because our district really pushes healthy habits, healthy lifestyle, and wellness. So I'm doing the research, and then I said, okay, I need to do something because I need to help my own. And in the process of helping my own, I can help others. And the statistics on overweight and obese children is ridiculous. It has tripled since 1980. It is pushing 40% of our country.
Unbelievable.
Children. And for adults, it's moving up, like around 67%. And what ends up happening is you get an increase in lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure, like diabetes, like high cholesterol. And these things are killing people.
Yes.
They are seriously killing people. And when you have now a 14-year-old child with high blood pressure, that wasn't my daughter, but there are some children because, I'm at Texas Children's with her and my other daughter, and they're just, spitting out the statistics. Mm-hmm. When you have a 14-year-old with high blood pressure and you have students that are dropping like flies on a football field, on a track, because they're not healthy, I had a problem. So I got my health coach certification from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and I also started working on my doctorate in health and wellness psychology from the University of the Rockies in Colorado Springs. And it was like information overload. But the more information I got, the more I wanted to do. So I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can so that I can put it all in one place. So if I get a question, then I can pull from one arsenal and support it with the information of the tools I have in this arsenal, and I'm going to have resources at my fingertips. And if I don't know the answer, then I'm going to have somebody to call.
That's
so
phenomenal.
Then Beachbody came into play because that's one of the tools. And, for years I've been doing their programs because once I had children, it's so hard to get to the gym.
Okay,
it's so very hard to get to the gym. And so I needed to have stuff that I could do at home. And so a few years ago, I didn't really know that you could even be a Beachbody coach. A few years ago, what happened was I was ordering, it was when I got Turbo Fire. It was when I got Turbo Fire. That's one of Shailene Johnson's programs. She is totally phenomenal, and it kicks butt. And so one of the coaches, one of the Beachbody coaches, because they automatically assign you to one, and then they said, you know, you can be a Beachbody coach too. And I'm like, what? They were like, yeah, you can be a Beachbody coach too. And then, you'll get 25% off of whatever you order. And then if you get 2 people under you, which, puts you like at Emerald, so it's kind of like some of the other things that are out there when you're trying to make money. If you can get 2 people under you so that they can get their 25% off, then when people are calling in to the infomercials and ordering the programs online, we'll automatically send people to you and assign people to you. So, I was like, well, you can do all that, and that's all well and good. I just want the products, and I want the Shakeology because that drink, that smoothie, you can have 1 a day, you can have 2 a day, but it is jam-packed with proteins and amino acids and superfoods and antioxidants, and that's all the fruits and vegetables you need to eat in a day.
Wow.
But when you're doing all of these programs, whether you're doing Beachbody programs or you're going to the gym, it's replenishing your body and helping you to build lean muscle.
Okay.
And yeah, at the same time. But, I mean, I have done the Turbo Fire. I swear by it. I've done Combat because I love to kickbox. I have done Insanity. I have done T25. I just ordered the new size program because my background is dancing, and I'm about to do that too. And let me see what else. Brazilian butt lift. I mean, you name it, I can tell you about it. P90X,
wow.
I can tell you about all of those programs. And, the 21-day fix, that too, because it helps you restructure your eating. But
amazing.
I'm telling you, because I'm one of those I'm not a try it before you buy it, but I'll try it for you before I ask you to buy it.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense, Tyrolyn. That makes a lot of sense. It's just like telling someone, "Listen, I'm selling these cheesecakes, but you don't taste it. Come on, you can't do that now. You want to be you definitely want to experience your own product, before you. That's a good thing. Some people don't though. Those who cheat, and those who just want the money, and those who just want to sell products, they, listen. Whatever, with some of them.
Right.
But that is magnificent. Hold on one second, Tyrolyn.
Okay.